So Adult Life Skills is an interesting little low-budget independent feature, Rachel Tannard, and when it was first described to me, somebody said, the thing about it is it's quite kooky. And immediately my hackles went up. Hackles? It is your hackles you go up. Yeah, my hackles went up because as we know, I'm not somebody who's big on kooky. And so the story is Jodie Whittaker is living in the shed of her house after the trauma of losing her twin. She is approaching 29, but she essentially doesn't have adult life skills. She spends her time at home making videos in the shed with her thumbs as thumb puppets. And these are videos that are very much like kind of the little short films that you got in Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, or Son of Rambo, you know, sort of thumbs being astronauts going off into space. And the story of the film is that obviously she's retreated from the world, and what she needs to do is she needs to move on. She needs to grow up. She needs to, you know, get away from all this baggage. And during the course of it, there are Brett Goldstein from Super Bob, who is this character who seems to be incredibly dorky, who, you know, is clearly sort of smitten by her, but she's not interested. There's Edward Hogg. There's basically, she is haunted by visions of her brother, and the surrounding cast, which also includes Alice Lowe, are all sort of very fun. And what I liked about this film, what's interesting, is you can attest that this is true, is I watched it on a link this morning, and I was laughing a lot. You were. And I thought it was really nicely written, really nicely directed. There are some very, very funny lines in it. I wrote a couple of them down. I don't want to spoil the gags, but believe me, there are so many of them. There's this thing when the sort of the central bit of it is when the dorky character says, "I think we should have badges for adult life skills," and she said, "What will those badges be?" He said, "I know, changing a tyre, knitting, or sending something back in a restaurant." There's a marvellous moment when our central character says, somebody says, "You need to listen to your heart." She says, "I can't listen to my heart. It tells me things like you like X Factor more than you should do, and you need to consider a perm." And then there's another lovely moment with this kid who's a very sort of important part of it. It says to her, when I grow up, I'm going to be like you. And she says, "Oh, that's kind." He says, "Why?" She says, "That's a compliment." He says, "No, I mean sad and angry." And all the way through, I was thinking, you know, it's nicely played. It is dealing with, you know, fairly important issues about, you know, loss and family and friendship and love, but it's doing it in a way which is funny and charming. And I understand why it was that people say kooky, but not kooky in that way that makes your teeth grate, not kooky in that way that is just kind of really, really annoying, but kooky in a way which is actually kind of quite cute. And I liked it. I think I enjoyed it much more than I'd expected to, and I did laugh all the way through. There's nice references to Whitesnake and Baywatch, and a very, very funny joke about laminating Robert Pattinson, but it's not Robert Pattinson, and that's the joke. So, you know, I enjoyed it.